Hi, today we are here with Josh Logan from Guardian Training and Consulting, and I'm so excited to be here with you because this is really important to me, not just because I'm a real estate agent, but because I think it's very important that everyone in real estate educates themselves in order to keep themselves safe. So I'm really happy to be here. Josh is going to teach us a class today in person. But if you are interested in having him come and meet your office or do a training virtually, all of his information is going to be in the link below. So I wanted to start off today with just a few things that maybe people don't know about how to keep themselves situationally aware. And I thought that I'd just kind of give you the floor and let you talk.
Sure. I think the biggest thing is it sounds simple, but it's a learned behavior. Even though it's instinctual in nature. So it's weird how we've gotten into a civilized world and we've lost a lot of that, right? And so if I drop you in the African savannah with nothing in the middle of the night, you will become situationally aware that quick. Right. But we live our daily lives. We have distractions, we have families, we have work, we have tons of different, cell phones, all these things that are completely distracting us from the world that we live in today. So a lot of these are just tips and tricks and just things that are just honing that edge just to keep us aware of where we're going, because like what we say is the best fight you can ever have is one that you don't have at all.
Right, I agree. And that's something that I don't think that I necessarily thought about. Is what I was looking for with you is I was looking for some moves that I could do that might keep me safe in the event that something happened to me. And you told me something really amazing, if you mind sharing it with everyone else.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is if we're in a fight, right? And in my law enforcement career, I've been in many different critical incidents, some pretty traumatic and pretty horrific. But the biggest thing that I've learned is just avoiding it, right? And if we're in that fight and we've missed so many warning signs. And so a lot of this class and a lot of what we're talking about today is trusting your instincts, seeing those warning signs, and then when those warning signs present themselves to just walk away. Right. It doesn't cost us anything to walk away. These are just simple things we can do just to keep ourselves out of that world. Because if we're in it, it's really a street fight at that point. I have a lot of different contacts that do teach karate and martial arts and stuff like that, but what we are all about is that avoidance. And so I've had in my law enforcement career, I've been in some critical incidents that, everything I did was legally justified, morally, ethically okay, but if I would have just pumped my brakes and instead of running into the situation and just taking 1/10 of a second to assess the situation, I probably wouldn't have been in that big of an issue or that big of a problem and on my way to the hospital because I've had many hospital visits. So it's learning from my experiences and learning from the community of real estate agents to keep them safe.
Okay, yeah, I love that. And one other thing that I think is really important that I actually was drawn to come and talk to you was that your wife is a realtor and your father is a realtor as well.
Yeah, so my late father was a realtor, and so my going on house showings, going on that, and then meeting my wife, who's former Chicago PD, and she was an air marshal. So a lot of people ask me like, hey, you're concerned about your wife going on to house showings. I'm blessed with a warrior queen, so I'm not as much concerned. But I've heard in around the realtor world about a lot of attacks. I've met a lot of realtors that have been attacked, from squatters to legit people that have been seriously hurt, all the way to reading stories of murders and investigating those.
Right. Yeah. Right. What's like your number one tip for something to look out for that maybe people might miss?
I guess the big thing I explain to people is if you don't take anything from the Realtor Safety Seminar and just take one thing away, is really trusting your instincts. I call it my cheese test. If I'm going to serve you, a block of cheese for, say, a holiday, or you come over and I'm putting a cheese and meat board out, I pull the cheese out of the refrigerator, I inspect the cheese, I look at the cheese, I feel the cheese, I inspect it. And if it doesn't look right, feel right, smell right, I'm going to throw it in the trash.
Right.
And that's the same thing as this is if you walk into a situation, walking up to, a house showing or whatever the case may be as your real estate life, and something doesn't look right, feel right, smell right, walk away from it. And then if necessary, call 911. A lot of people are really concerned about calling 911. And now, response times as a general rule have gotten longer, due to staffing shortages with law enforcement agencies. But just call them and step away from the situation and make it something fun with your client or whatever the case may be. But it's the biggest thing is trust your instincts, and when in doubt, if you don't see it, feel right, just walk away from it.
What are some of the warning signs that people ignored and then later in retrospect they realized, hey, I should have taken that seriously?
So yeah, great question. I'll give you a specific example. We had a local realtor that did a multi-day showing on a house, and she came into, she had all her procedures down from closing the house to securing the house, locking doors, all of that. So she came into day 2, and as she was walking up to the house, she noticed the door was unlocked, and she didn't feel that was right. So she still walked in. That was, proverbial clue number 1. Then as she walked to the house, she noticed there was multiple doors inside the home that were open that otherwise would not have been open. And nobody was supposed to be in the home. Nobody was supposed to be coming and going in the home. And so as she was walking towards the back bedroom, she went to go reach for the doorknob, and a hand came out and grabbed her. Yeah, it was a squatter. So grabbed her, tried to pull her in, and so she ran out. And as she was running out of the house, she realized, oh my, I have the house keys in my hand. I need to put them in the lockbox. So she went to the super lockbox and was trying to put them in because that's her procedure in her head, right? Us that are relaxed and normal, we'd be like, what are you thinking? Run down the road and get out of there. Right. But she had all those procedures in her head. She never had an emergency action plan. Right. So she's trying to put them in, and the window opens up and it grabs her again and tries to pull her into the window. And so then she realized, why am I doing this at that point? And she ran away, called the Phoenix Police Department. About 2 hours later, the Phoenix Police Department came and took the report. And the guy was gone. Yeah. So that's it's a scary example, but it's not something. Think about what's the worst case scenario. Right. Let it run through your head. That could happen, right? Because the whole genesis of our Realtor Safety seminar was the Beverly Carter incident in Arkansas, where she was abducted and sexually assaulted and murdered, and her body was found a couple days later. And could it have happened? Yeah, that's something that could have happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Probably one of the things that I'm most curious on your opinion is how often do you recommend that someone take a class like this to keep it top of mind?
If you're asking my professional opinion, annually. If you think about me as a police officer, there are things that I had to do that seem mundane or commonsensical every year to just keep abreast of it, right? For example, like legal updates, right? We got continual legal updates that an attorney would come in and go, these are the new laws. We constantly update our slideshow in our courses due to differing crime trends, right? We're gonna talk about in our course about the criminal mindset and what are the particular crime trends that we're dealing with at any given time. Right. So I break down training into 3 things, the 3 R's: recent, relevant, and realistic. Okay. And that's the biggest thing is if you take one training course, it's a journey. That's the biggest thing is it's a journey. And so at a minimum, I would say once a year at that minimum. If you can't afford it or you can't have the staffing, then every year or so.
Right. That makes perfect sense if you're going to focus on what's recent and relevant, that you would then want to refresh yourself once a year.
Absolutely.
I like that. Let's end on a positive note. This is really hard to have this be a positive thing, but I actually want this to be more of something, just as you have mentioned that your wife is a warrior woman. Just because something like this could happen doesn't mean that you can't feel powerful enough to prevent it from happening to you. Exactly. So what is your one thing to have people keep in mind? Because I don't want anyone to watch this and feel like, you know what, I shouldn't get my license. This is too risky. I don't want to go meet someone who I've never met before and go show them a house. I want people to be aware, but I don't want them to be afraid.
Yeah. I think statistically speaking, the most dangerous thing you do as a real estate agent is driving down the freeway. That's statistically speaking. I mean, we drive everywhere, right? Yes. And so looking like per capita incident rates, getting into a minor fender bender to a car crash, that's the most statistical thing you can have. We don't want to be afraid of our surroundings. It's just being aware. It's being prepared, right? Prepared, not paranoid. There's a fine line between that. But it's yeah, just being aware of your surroundings. And the problem with being aware and prevention, true prevention, is you can't quantify it. Because if it doesn't happen,
then you don't know how many situations you missed.
Exactly. Right. Walking in and just having that poise and presence, right, and the confidence. And it's not false bravado. It's just more of, I know my surroundings. I know who's coming and going. You'd be surprised at like just looking at somebody and just nodding, right? If they were acknowledging their existence, and then just, because if they're trying to hurt you, then you already saw them, right? Okay. And so with typically the people that are candy crushing or they're looking at their phone, that's when bad things happen. And so just being aware and just being happy and just smile. You'd be surprised at how far you can get with just a smile and a simple nod.
Interesting. I like that a lot. Okay, well, I think that's really important that we as professionals, we're not just taking the time to prepare ourselves by trying to remember how many bedrooms and bathrooms and square feet that this next house that we're going to, but also making sure that we're present enough to be aware of the situation and the property that we're walking into, who we're meeting, and what we can expect. Taking those 5 minutes to prepare yourself for the house you're showing, take a few minutes also to prepare yourself safety-wise.
Absolutely, 100%.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm so excited, and I hope that everyone takes him up on a class. If you're not a real estate broker, you don't have an office, you can hold this for your team. You can join one of your trainings as a participant, just as a single agent. So you don't have to feel like you have to go into a full class on your own. You can also join classes that you periodically put on as well. So, all right, well, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.